I am Elmore, President and Founder of the proud Black Buddhist World Association. Dr. Carter G. Woodson writes, quote, "Those who have no record of what their forefathers have accomplished lose the inspiration which comes from the teachings of biography and history." See, the phrase Myoho Renge Kyo has a distinct Black culture, history, and language. What the Japanese Buddhist teachers do not tell Black people, or what is not commonly known, is that a Black man, Shakyamuni Buddha, first chanted Myoho Renge Kyo. Please understand that language, history, and culture is important when you view things from the standpoint of cause and effect. See, the person who reintroduced Myoho Renge Kyo to the Japanese people was Nichiren Shonin, who did so on April 28, 1253. Now, please understand that when Nichiren chanted Myoho Renge Kyo, he did so some 2,000 years after Myoho Renge Kyo was first chanted by Shakyamuni Buddha. Please look at Myoho Renge Kyo from the standpoint of Black history, culture, and language. Now, in the Gosho, or Writings of Nichiren Shonin, the Gosho title, Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra, reads, quote, "It was only when he reached the age of 72 that he first began to intone Myoho Renge Kyo, the Daimoku of the Sutra. However, people of faraway countries such as China and Japan were unable to hear it at that time. It was over 1,000 years before China heard so much as the name of the sutra, and another 350 or more years before it was heard in Japan." Unquote. Nichiren gives us a historical record that Asians in China did not hear about the title of the Lotus Sutra until over 1,000 years after the death of the Buddha, and in Japan they did not hear about it until another 350 years or more. In essence, it was 1,400 years after the death of the Buddha before Japanese people even heard about Myoho Renge Kyo. So, when you listen to these Japanese priests and you talk to them, they act like they were the inventors of Myoho Renge Kyo and it came from Japanese, when in fact the Japanese didn't get it until 2,000 years after the death of the Buddha. Now, what we as Black or African Americans must understand is the fact that the chant or title of the Lotus Sutra came from Shakyamuni Buddha, who came from what was then called Eastern Ethiopia. The Buddhist religion did not arrive into Japan until 6th century AD. Now, what is it that makes the proud Black Buddhist unique from most other Buddhist sects? Let us be more specific. What makes us proud Black Buddhists different from Mahayana Buddhists? See, Mahayana Buddhism is the time in history where Buddhism was separated by race, language, and culture. This is the time in Buddhist history where the Buddha was purposely changed from black to white. Look here at the images of the Ganhara Buddhist images created by the Kushan king Kanishka. It was Kushan King Kanishka and Avagosha who created Mahayana Buddhism. Mahayana Buddhism is characterized by the Sanskrit language. When you study Buddhist teachings in regards to Sanskrit language, it means that all black history, culture, and language has been extricated. Then chant Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Chanting Namu Myoho Renge Kyo will give you a direct path to God. You do not need an organization, you do not need a priest, and you do not need a Buddhist temple. You can chant Namu Myoho Renge Kyo and personally meet God. God exists inside of you. God is only your inherent Buddha nature. And it is the same as calling the name of God. Now, most of us who are black come up in a Christian culture. You must understand that chanting Namu Myoho Renge Kyo is the same as calling the name of God. Let us be clear. We proud black Buddhists purposefully make our Buddhist practice inclusive of our black culture, history, and language. Most of us are brought up with a reverence for God. And I'm not here to tell you, and I'm here to tell you that Namu Myoho Renge Kyo is a reverence to God. Let us first give you the history and culture of Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. There are two schools of thought in regards to Namu Myoho Renge Kyo or Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. You have the Japanese Nichiren sect school of thought, and you have the proud Black Buddhist school of thought. Let us deal with the word Nam or Namu. The Japanese Nichiren sects teach that the word Nam or Namu is a Sanskrit word, and that the word comes from Namos, that means devotion. Please understand that the first Buddhist writings were the Pali Canon about 29 BC. The Pali language of Sanskrit is a black language, and it is the indigenous language that was spoken in India or Magadha or that part of the world. It's called Sanskrit. The Pali language was around. Now, the language of Sanskrit is an artificial language, and the people never spoke Sanskrit like the SGI, Nichiren Shoshu, and Nichiren Shu teach. They teach Sanskrit because Sanskrit is a white language. Now, for those of you who wants to question the idea of Sanskrit, I want you to first of all look at this word here. It's called Rudra Dhanam. The Rudra Dhanam is the oldest archaeological finding of the word of any Sanskrit word. This happened in the time of King Kanishka in the Shaka era, who purposely changed the Buddha from black to white. This is the time when they started Mahayana Buddhism, where they extricated all black history, black culture, and black language, and the Buddha moved from black to white. Now, what I want you to do, I want you to Google the word Namo. You will find that Namo means devotion, and Namo is a Sanskrit word, and it's a word that was around before there was ever any Sanskrit written. And the word Namu is not a Sanskrit word, but the word Namu comes from Namo, and it comes from the Pali or the black language. See, the Sanskrit version of Buddhism is when they extricate all black history, culture, and language. Now, please be clear that our incorporating the concept of God into our Buddhist practice is a way that we combat Japanese or Asian cultural imperialism. See, the incorporation of God into religious practice is a black thing. The Gosho Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra reads, quote, "The Lotus Sutra wherein the Buddha honestly discarded expedient means says that one gained interest through faith alone. Buddhahood is gained through faith alone, and that faith is in the Lotus Sutra." See, the Gosho, the real aspect of the Gohanzan reads, quote, "The Gohanzan also is found only in the two characters of faith. This is what the sutra means when it states that one can gain entry through faith alone." It also reads, "What is most important is that by chanting Namu Myoho Renge Kyo alone, you can attain Buddhahood. It will no doubt depend on the strength of your faith. To have faith is the basis of Buddhism. Thus, the fourth volume of Concentration and Insight states, quote, "Buddhism is like an ocean that one can only enter with faith," unquote. It goes on further. The fourth volumes of the Annotations on the Great Concentration and Insight explains this. It says, with regard to the phase, Buddhism is like an ocean that one can only enter with faith. Even Confucius taught that faith is first and foremost. How much more so true of the profound doctrines of Buddhism? Without faith, how could one possibly enter? Unquote. See, this is what you must understand, that the Buddha taught that one can attain Buddhahood by chanting Namu Myoho Renge Kyo alone. The Buddha teaches us that one can only attain Buddhahood through faith, and that the title of the Lotus Sutra, or Myoho Renge Kyo, is God. Myo is the same as God. Let me explain. The Gosho, the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra reads, quote, "Next, the blind eyes of ordinary people were opened, and even then Ichatikas, who had been blind from birth, were able to establish a relationship with the Lotus Sutra that ensured them that their eyes would one day open. All of this was due entirely to the virtue of the single character Myo," unquote. Please understand that the Daimoku is the title of the Lotus Sutra, or Myoho Renge Kyo. It further reads, quote, "Milo says, the reason other sutras are called great, but not Myo, is simply that it is easy to cure those who have a mind, but difficult to cure those who are without a mind. Because it, the Lotus Sutra, can cure what is thought to be incurable, it is called Myo." Oh, wonderful. Does that not sound like a God to you? That's Myo. Now, the Gosho, the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra, or the title of the Lotus Sutra reads, quote, "This Lotus Sutra, however, can cure the dead as well as the living. Therefore, it has the character Myo in its title, Myoho Renge Kyo. Myo, as you see, is another name for God. What else that you know that can cure the dead as well as the living other than a God? You see, in the Ghost Show, on Attaining Buddhahood in This Lifetime reads, quote, "What then does Myo signify? It is the mysterious nature of life from moment to moment, which the mind cannot comprehend or words express. When we look into our own mind at any moment, we perceive neither color nor form to verify that it exists. Yet we still cannot say that it does not exist, for many different thoughts continually occur. The mind cannot be considered either to exist or not to exist. Life is indeed an elusive reality that transcends both words and concepts of existence and non-existence. It is neither existence nor non-existence, yet exhibits the qualities of both." Unquote. Now, the Ghost Show entity of the mystic law reads, quote, "When the great teacher Namu explained the 5 characters Myoho Renge Kyo, he said, quote, "Myo indicates that all living beings are Myo, or mystic. Ho indicates that all living beings are whole or low. Renge or lotus is a metaphor that's employed here. It would seem then, it not, that both Naye and Tentai interpret the lotus as a metaphor." Now, in the Ghost Show, the sacred teachings of the Buddha's lifetime reads, quote, "Regarding the words Myoho Renge Kyo, the profound meaning of the Lotus Sutra by Tentai says of the word Myo, the character Myo or wonderful is defined as being beyond ordinary comprehension. It also says to reveal the depths of the secret storehouse. This is called Myo or wonderful. It also says, quote, Myo means the finest of the sutras. It is the doctrine of the gate to sweet dew or nirvana, and therefore it's called Myo. See, Myo is God." See, the Ghost Show also reads, "With regard to the word Ho, profound meaning says what is meant by Ho is the 10 worlds, the 10 factors, existences that both provisional and true." And it also says, quote, "To define the proper relationship between the provisional and the true, this is termed Ho or law." Further, the Ghost Show reads, "Regarding the word Renge, profound meaning says the word Renge or lotus blossom is an analogy for whole or existence that are provisional and true." Unquote. It also says, quote, "To point to the original enlightenment attained by the Buddha in the far distant past, this is compared to Ren or lotus. To clarify the perfect way of non-duality or provisional and true, this is compared to gate or blossom." Further it reads, "With regard to the word Kyo, profound meaning says, quote, the voice carries out the work of the Buddha, and this is called Kyo or Sutra." Now, let's see if we can give you a better understanding. Now, the profound meaning sutra says, the voice carries the work of the Buddha. Now, the Ghost Show, opening the eyes of painted images reads, quote, "A person can know another's mind by listening to the voice. This is because the physical aspect reveals the spiritual aspect. The physical and spiritual, which are one in essence, manifest themselves as two distinct aspects. Thus, the Buddha's mind found expression as written words of the Lotus Sutra. These written words are the Buddha's mind found expression in written words of the Lotus Sutra. These written words are the Buddha's mind in a different form. Therefore, those who read the Lotus Sutra must not regard it as consistent of mere written words, for those words are in themselves the Buddha's mind, unquote. See, this Gosho further reads, in this commentary, Tentai uses the term Buddha's mind to indicate that the sutra itself, a physical entity, actually embodies the Buddha's spiritual aspect. Further it reads, because the Lotus Sutra manifests the Buddha's spiritual aspect, when one embodies that spiritual aspect in a wooden or painted image possessing 31 features, the image in its entirety becomes a living Buddha. Now, what this is explaining, ladies and gentlemen, is that the Lotus Sutra, when you recite the Lotus Sutra into a physical object, that is like the eye-opening ceremony. That object becomes a living Buddha because the Lotus Sutra represents the spiritual aspect of the Buddha. It is actually the Buddha. Now, in regards to our lives, when we recite the Lotus Sutra or the title of the Lotus Sutra, we are encountering not just simple words, we are encountering the spirit of the Buddha itself. Now, what is the spirit of the Buddha? The spirit of the Buddha is the ultimate spiritual reality. The ultimate spiritual reality is another name for God. So when you chant Myoho Renge Kyo, you are tapping God, or you are calling the name of God, because the spirit of God or the spirit of the Buddha is Myoho Renge Kyo that was intoned or chanted by Shakyamuni Buddha. Now, the gift of rights reads, quote, the true path lies in affairs of this world. The Golden Light Sutra states, quote, to have a profound knowledge of this world is itself Buddhism. The Nirvana Sutra states, quote, all non-Buddhist scriptures and writings of society are themselves Buddhist teachings, not non-Buddhist teachings. This means whether it's the Bible, whether it's the Quran, or whatever, it's all Buddhist teachings. And the essence of the Buddhist teachings is in the title, and the title of the ultimate spiritual reality of the Buddhist teachings is Myoho Renge Kyo. Now, the Gosho, Propagation of the Wise, reads, quote, the correct teachings of the time can be propagated only by a person of wisdom. In the Gosho, the sword of good and evil, Nichiren Shonin writes, quote, you must pray to the heavenly gods with all your heart. Now, in the Gosho concentration, the image of Shakyamuni Buddha reads, quote, now, if we consider what the Buddhist writings have to say, we may note that the Golden Light Sutra states, quote, the god of the sun and the god of the moon, because they listen to this sutra, are able to obtain vitality and abundance. And the Sovereign King Sutra states, quote, through the power of the Sutra King, these luminaries are able to circle the 4 continents. You see, it is the power of the Lotus Sutra that gives these gods power. Now, Nichiren further states, he says, I, Nichiren, have put my trust in this deity, and in this manner have carried on my struggles in Japan over the past several years. Already I have the feeling that I have achieved victory. Such clear blessings can only be attributed to this deity. Now you have Nichiren Shonin, who says his protection comes from a god or a deity. Now, the word Namu means reverence. It also means to awaken. It also means devotion. When you chant Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, you are calling the name of God. You are awakening. You are showing reverence and devoting yourself to God. Now, in the Gosho, happiness in this word reads, quote, there is no true happiness other than upholding faith in the Lotus Sutra. This is what meant by peace and security in their present existence and good circumstances in future existences. Though worldly troubles may arise, never let them disturb you. No one can avoid problems, not even sages or worthies, unquote. See, please understand that true Buddhism is your history, culture, and language. So, what we at the Proud Black Buddhist World Association do is that we practice Buddhism according to our custom and according to our culture, our history, and our language, and we make God inclusive of our Buddhist practice. So instead of using the word Buddha, we interchange the word Buddha with God, because when you chant Namu Myoho Renge Kyo or Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, and you saying you are practicing the name of God, then others can instantly identify with that, because we can identify with God. That is our culture. Now, by not having God in our culture, that is an Asian thing. That is a Japanese thing. We're not Japanese. We are African Americans, and we are Americans, and God is a part of our life, and God too is a part of Buddhism. Now, when I left the Nichiren sets of the SGI, Nichiren Shoshu, and Nichiren Shu, I learned to read the Lotus Sutra in English, because the Japanese had us, at least Nichiren Shoshu, basically teach the Lotus Sutra in Shindoku, or the Japanese language. And it was only when I read the Lotus Sutra where we learned more about God. Now, in Buddhism, or in the Lotus Sutra, the 16th chapter of the Lotus Sutra talks about a person known as the eternal Buddha. When you examine the eternal Buddha, you will find that the eternal Buddha and God is the same thing. Now, in the Gongyo book, a prayer book, and this is our prayer book, our Buddhist prayer book, in the 16th chapter of the Lotus Sutra, and I'll go real quickly, it says, it is many hundreds of thousands of billions or trillions of sample kappas or kappas since I became a Buddha. So the Buddha tells you that he had gained this Buddhahood, or he became a Buddha, or whoever, thousands and billions and trillions of years ago. And what he says in order to save the perverted people, I expediently show my nirvana. So what the Buddha tells us is that when he say he expediently show his nirvana, he means that he died. But in essence, he really did not die. Now, what he says in the Lotus Sutra, he says, although I always live here with the liberated people, I disappear from their eyes by my supernatural powers. And when they see me seemingly pass away, and they then make offerings to me, they adore me. He says, now, he said, you have thought I passed away. He said, but when you, at the cost of your life, call for me, then I will come to you. It also says, the Eternal Buddha also says, he said, this pure world of mine is indestructible. He said, if people think it is full of sorrow, joy, and other sufferings, he said, because of their evil karmas, these simple people would not be able to even hear the names of the three treasures. They would not even hear the names of the Buddha. But when you live upright and you become a good person and you call upon me, then I'll come. This is what the Lotus Sutra teaches. It says also, the Buddha says, he says, all wise men have no doubts. He said, remove your doubts. He said, he talks about this. He says, I am the Father of the world. He says, I am here for you. He says, if people always see me, they'll become arrogant and litigious and cling to the five desires. He said, but I know who is practicing the way and who is not. Therefore, I expound various teachings. So the Buddha teaches us through expedient means. He teaches us by making you believe that he was dead, but he's actually here. But the way to Buddhahood is only through faith. Faith in the Lotus Sutra. In the Lotus Sutra, we read and we learn about the eternal Buddha. The eternal Buddha is Shakyamuni Buddha. And if you want to call him God, you can say God, or you can say the eternal Buddha. I think that we have given you enough. My name is Anthony Elmore, President and Founder of the Proud Black Buddhist World Association. Thank you very much.
Since I've joined NSA, I have changed my views of society, and I have rekindled my desire to attain the American dream.
Namu Myoho Renge Kyo is the way to make the karma go. Namu